Hey everybody, and welcome to the pits. My name is Scott Pittman, and we are driving to work and talking about movies. What movie this time? We're going to talk about The Wrath of Kahn. This is the second Star Trek movie made back in the 80s, 1982 I believe, starring William Shatner, of course, as Captain Kirk, Ricardo Montalban, I think is how you say his last name, the guy from Fantasy Island. Arguably, one of the best sci-fi movies ever made, if not the best sci-fi movie ever made. The pacing is fantastic. The story is great. It's just amazing. Now, an interesting little tidbit about this movie in my own personal life is we went to the theater in Memphis to see it, me and my friend Jason, and we got the middle seats. We showed up, an hour early to see it or something crazy like that, and we had the best seats in the house. The place sold out, and the theater asked us to move over, and we were just little kids. I think we were 12, 13, and we said, absolutely not. We're staying right where we are. Those other people can divide up, but we got there early to get those seats, and we kept those seats, by gosh. The other interesting thing I thought about this movie was the design of the enemy ship, Kahn's ship, the Reliant. Looks sort of like an upside-down Enterprise. And that's because it was. They actually sent the design of the Enterprise to the director, from what I understand, and he thought that they were looking at the enemy ship, and he was looking at the Enterprise upside down. And he said, hey, I like it, run with that. And so the designers said, okay, we'll just make it an upside-down Enterprise. It's actually a little shorter than Captain Kirk's ship and everything. But I think it's really cool that the enemy ship is the reverse of the hero's ship. So those are a couple of little facts that I thought were very interesting about the movie. What will I say about this movie? The categories I usually go over. Characters, they're fantastic here. These characters talk like real people. All the dialogue isn't just push the story forward. They have little conversations between themselves as the movie goes through that really gets into what they're feeling. And Captain Kirk playing it cool, and the Vulcans kind of looking down on humans. It's a really, really good character development set of dialogue that just makes them feel like real people. Speaking of character development, the characters are going through their character arcs. Captain Kirk is getting older, and he's worried about that, and that's something he has to deal with through the movie. Montalban's character has had a disaster in his life, and he has to go through trying to deal with that and get his revenge on Kirk. Just a lot of interesting character development, stuff they didn't have to do. Kirk has a secondary little story going on where we find out that in between the old series and the movie, or maybe before that, he has had not necessarily a wife, but someone that gave him a son. And I love the line in the movie where Kirk says, I did what you wanted, I stayed away, hinting that the famous 5-year mission that the Enterprise took in the old series, Kirk may have taken that command to get away from this life that this woman didn't want him around. And he probably knew that he would stick around and be a bother to her, he felt, and left. Just one little sentence, one little line gave the movie character, Kirk, so much depth. It sent your imagination wondering what happened to those characters, in the meantime. And there's lots of little tidbits in there. If you just sit down and actually listen word for word through the movie, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And it's not just a good guy, bad guy. The bad guy has a bomb. When I say bomb, the Genesis device, what it is, I don't know what sci-fi writer thought of that thing, but it's amazing. And I was just swept up. The ending battle between the two forces of good and evil in these ships inside a nebula. The whole thing is just amazing. The pacing of the story should be taught in classes. There's lots of action, and then it boils down, and you can get some dialogue from the characters that develop them as characters, and then there's some action again. There's not a dull moment. It's just absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. Christy Alley is also in it. Beautiful beyond belief. She plays one of the Vulcans. Interestingly enough, also one of the actresses that played in He-Man, the movie, which was fun. And but I remember her turning around in that movie, and you see those eyes. Those are not fake eyes. Her eyes are that blue in real life. And so every time she appears on screen, she's just breathtaking. Wonderful, wonderful movie. Cannot recommend it highly enough. The music is outstanding. The special effects are out of this world. Even today they hold up with all the computer generated effects. The fact that they use actual models for these ships still stands true today. They look like they're real ships because they were real ships that they used. It's just wonderful. You should add it to your collection immediately, especially if you can find it on widescreen, Blu-ray, or high def, which I'm sure is coming, or if it hasn't come out already in 4K. One of the best movies in my collection, and one of the best movies of all time. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this little chit chat about this movie. Get it, watch it. You can find it pretty cheap now, but again, if you can find it in the higher qualities, absolutely go out and buy it. And we'll see you guys next time in the pits.